Hi everyone! Today I'm continuing my series on career satisfaction among the different temperaments from David Kierz's theory, and namely I will be talking about SJ types or the guardians. In the previous two videos I talked about the NTs and the NFs, and today I'm going to continue talking about the SJs. So all about that in the next few minutes. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's dive in. So, like I mentioned in my previous two videos as well, this series is not necessarily focused on telling people that they should have specific jobs or specific careers, but rather focusing on what are some of the important elements or values or principles that those jobs or careers should have to increase the likelihood that the different temperaments will find job or career satisfaction. So when we talk about the SJ types, we basically talk about the largest amount of people in the world, because statistically speaking, SJ types are the most common types. So we find a lot of ESTJs, ESFJs, ISTJs, and ISFJs all over the workplace. The most common thing that is mentioned when we talk about these types is that they tend to be the pillars, the stable pillars of our society. We have a lot of SJs, but also beyond the numbers, we're talking about people who are extremely good at being stable, being consistent, being practical, and being down to earth. I think that the most important element, or at least one of the most important elements for SJs to take into consideration when thinking about their career satisfaction, is a sense of contribution to making things remain consistent and stable and connected. This is a feeling that I often get around SJ types, that with their attitude and their perspective, they tend to help me feel more down to earth and more connected to what's going on. They almost have this calming presence, and especially in the workplace, I feel that they have this natural skill or ability to bring people back down, to calm people. Of course, not when they're stressed themselves, but in general, they have this amazing ability to do this. So a career or a workplace that enables them to bring out that skill and contribute in this way is something that will really satisfy an SJ type deep down. They might feel like if the environment is a little bit too dynamic, or if the environment is a bit too much focused on innovation and change and doesn't create space or room for stability and consistency, it can be a bit too stressful for them. But you shouldn't take this literally. So yes, SJs are maybe less likely to enjoy being entrepreneurs in a very fast-paced environment, but that doesn't mean that they cannot be good entrepreneurs, and that doesn't mean that they cannot have happy careers in this field. It's just more a matter of what kind of business are you trying to build, what kind of team are you wanting to work with, in what field do you want to have that business? Because I know some amazing SJ types who opened their own businesses and created them around their perspective of or around their self in such a way that they can create that stable, clear, consistent perspective. So if they are the leaders of this organization, they are, let's say, more able to kind of give their organization or their team this flow that people can actually take things step by step, that there are certain procedures that can be followed, that there are certain structures that they can create, and then other people can follow these structures. That they can leave a legacy in terms of something that is sustainable long term and not something that is constantly changing and evolving. However, if the SJ type, for example, joins a team that maybe is very NP or SP, a team that focuses a bit too much on change and innovation and constant development, and they don't really enjoy working with a lot of stable structures and procedures, this can be really stressful for the SJ. There could be an exception, for example, if that team is looking for someone to help them create that structure and stability, then creating that space or that role for the SJ type can also be a great opportunity. But in most cases, I feel like this can be a bit too much for them and they don't really feel the satisfaction. On the other hand, also working in an organization that superficially seems to care about structures and stability, but is not actually like fulfilling them or respecting them, can also be a big challenge for SJ types, in the sense that if they really connect with themselves and they want to contribute in this way, and they join such an organization because it seems that they are actually looking for someone to do this, but in reality they're opposing a lot of force and not allowing the SJ to contribute in this way, this can also be a big issue or challenge that they have, which causes them to have less career satisfaction. Okay, so this is one thing that they should take into account. The other thing that I believe is really important for SJs is to feel that they are in some way protecting something. They are the guardians, and they are called the guardians for a reason. I feel that deep down in their essence, SJs have this innate drive and ability to protect and take care of people or of things. Maybe the SFJs are better at taking care of people, and the STJs are better at taking care of things, structures, whatever you might want to call them. So this protective nature that they have, which is probably the strongest among all the 4 temperaments, is something that they can really hold on to, and they need to be able to show this skill that they have, or this interest that they have at the workplace. So finding an organization or finding a team where they are allowed to do this, and where their ability to protect is also being seen and validated and appreciated, is something that really matters a lot to them, because otherwise they can they can start feeling really frustrated that they keep working and they keep contributing, because a lot of the times they tend to be very hardworking people, but despite their efforts they're not being seen and they're not being recognized, and this is also something that is really triggering for them. I've heard this comment from a lot of SJs that I know, that they work so hard, they dedicate so much time and energy to the organization, and they really try to protect the people that they care about, or they try to protect the values of the company or the structures of that company, but then all their hard work and all their effort is not being appreciated. I would say maybe this tends to happen a bit more often for the SFJs and also for ISTJ, because ESTJs can be a bit more assertive and vocal, and when they feel that people do not give them this appreciation, among these 4 types, they are the most likely to try to fight for it and talk about it and be conflictual about it. Not always, not with everybody, but they seem to have a better ability to do this. However, the SFJs and the ISTJs sometimes work really hard behind the scenes, and people don't see or recognize their efforts the way that maybe they deserve to have their efforts seen and recognized. So they keep protecting, and protecting is in a way more of a passive attitude, where you're not, necessarily the one that is doing some very obvious actions, but you are there, and your contribution actually matters a lot, because without you there, the team would not be working in the same way. I remember when I was working in human resources at the beginning of my career, I had a very inspiring ISFJ leader, and she was the one who brought everyone back down to earth. When people were really stressed, when people were overwhelmed or were getting in conflict with top management in the company, our team leader was the one that was really protecting us and really taking care of us and making us feel that we belong in this team, that our contribution is seen and valued and recognized. And I think it's a great example of how a lot of SJ types operate. Okay, so these are my thoughts on some of the most important things that SJs should take into account to find career satisfaction. So number 1, the ability to contribute to creating safety, stability, a legacy. And number 2, the ability to protect and be seen for their ability to protect. So next week I'm going to be talking about SP types, and I'm going to be finishing this series. Otherwise, thank you very much for being with me, and don't forget that if you check out the link in the description below, you'll find a link to my website, which will tell you a little bit more about the coaching services that I offer, focused on helping people deepen their level of self-awareness and create a life on their own terms. Thank you very much again, and see you next time with another video on typology.